Okay guys, in today's video I have the highly anticipated Moyu Aochuang. Now, right out of the box this cube feels very nice, and I looked at it and I was a bit confused on the outer layer stickers, because if you notice on the Shengxiao 5x5 the stickers are close to about the same, where they're more circular. However, on the outside the pieces seem to be a bit flatter and a bit wider. Now, doing a few solves I didn't really notice this, so it wasn't too much of a problem. But if you look at the cube, you'll notice that the holes seem to be noticeably bigger. Now, the Shengxiao 5x5 has other than the flooring mod, has very small holes, and this is very good for being a very crisp and fast cube. Whereas with the Moyu Aochuang, the holes seem a bit bigger, which with any Moyu cube will allow you to, even with the inner layers, be able to cut right into it. So there's corner cutting all over the cube, versus on the Shengxiao, there's pretty much no corner cutting with double flick of layers, and only on the outer layers there's corner cutting. Looking in comparison to the edges and the pieces, you can see that there are noticeably some differences. You'll notice that the Shengxiao, this one, is just a standard in terms of the piece itself, and this is flooring modded, so it's a bit smoother. And on the Moyu Aochuang 5x5 edge, it has a little hinge at the end to prevent pops. Now those are the edges. Now if we look at the inner pieces, you can tell that there are the exact same sort of design, and that this is smoother obviously because it's flooring modded. And if you'll notice, this Moyu Aochuang edge, or inner piece, is as smooth as this. They're both very, very smooth, and this is basically almost like it's the same as this. And it has the same sort of hinge here as the Shengxiao. And finally, looking at the inner middle pieces, or inner center pieces, it has the same sort of design. Now, if you'll notice on the Shengxiao 5x5, it's just sort of like this top part, it goes up like that. Now, if you'll notice on the Moyu Aochuang, it's actually, in terms of width, this way, it's a bit shorter, so I'm pretty sure that would be a problem with popping. I had that problem, but it still does have the hinge sort of mechanism going on there. In terms of stability, this cube does seem to turn very, very smoothly. Out of the box, it is perfect in every way. And honestly, with a lot of other Moyu cubes, it seemed to feel a bit unstable right out of the box, whereas this cube just felt clean and crisp. Now, I will play with the tensions a little bit, but I can definitely feel that this cube needs breaking in and maybe a little bit of lube. Honestly, I don't see myself lubing the core, as I don't honestly think it needs it. I don't feel any spring noises, and it feels exactly like the Moyu Osu. And one of the other things about modding a Shengxiao 5x5 is that flooring modding it typically only really affects the corner cutting of the outer layers to make a faster 3x3 stage. Now, I did experience some little bit of catching on my Shengxiao 5x5, so I was curious to see if the Moyu had any differences. Like all Moyu cubes, this is smooth inside and out. Like the Moyu Osu, it's basically like, in terms of moving it, it's smooth all the way around. It's basically sort of a smoother version of the Shengxiao, where a Shengxiao is fast and it's crisp. It's not like you don't sort of smooth into it. You sort of have to, there's no corner cutting up here. Whereas on the Moyu Aochuang, you can sort of just, flow into it the same way you would on the outer layers. Now, one big concern I did have with this is that while I will play around with the tensions, I found that when I was doing RUF triggers, like a T-perm, when I was doing them at a considerably fast speed, I would sometimes, I'm trying to get this to work here, when I would do the F trigger from the R move, it would take this piece with it when I would only move the outer layers, and sometimes I would have to either deal with the pop that it would get, because it's going to keep bringing it down, so obviously it's going to pop, or have to click it back in and then complete the alg. And it's sort of hard to start that. Whereas with the Shengxiao, it doesn't take anything down with it. It might catch a little, but it doesn't take anything down with it, which is what I like. Now with this cube, everything on it is smooth. The inner layers are very smooth. They seem to turn very nicely, and there's no other problems. The only concern I have about this is the 3x3 stage. I feel myself that if the cubies are a little bit smaller, noticeably, from the Shengxiao, you'll notice the cube is just a hair smaller. You really can't tell in this, but this Moyu Aochuang is actually a hair smaller than the Shengxiao. And I find myself that if I start doing the 3x3 stage, I may lose a bit of the control, and the 3x3 stage might be hindered a little bit. Other than that, the cube seems to fit together very well, and I will leave this and see how that feels now. So yeah, overall, I'm going to give this cube like a 9 out of 10, because it definitely has some potential. And yeah, so cube fits together as a whole, and that's it.